Hello and welcome again to another episode of Hometown Hauntings from Ghost City Tours. I am your host, Stephanie, and today I am excited to bring on our show a very seasoned paranormal investigator and enthusiast whose journey began as a child. I can't wait to dig into that a little bit more and hear about all of those childhood adventures that were maybe not as filled with glitter and sparkles as some of our other childhoods. Looking forward to hearing more about all of her investigations, her dedicated work into breaking the stigma surrounding paranormal experiences and making sure that everybody is heard in these journeys through the paranormal side. She definitely has a passion that drives her creative pursuits, including writing, filmmaker, and podcasting. She is a published author with another one in the works, as well as a host of a TV show. And I want to hear more too about her annual hosting of a smooth criminal murder mystery dinner, which the pictures from that look awesome. So welcome today to the podcast, Marie.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me and reaching out and bringing me on your show.
Great. So we first came across you just by doing some searches on Instagram, and you have a really fun Instagram profile, lots of really fun videos. I really enjoyed the one that you just did on the comparison with the Steven Spielberg movie from the 80s to the drones of right now. So that's going to be fun to get into. I just want to get to know you a little bit more. Tell me how you got into this, or how maybe the paranormal life chose you and you didn't choose it.
Yeah, so as you stated, it's definitely a combination of it being something that chose me. So I got into this paranormal investigative research and enthusiasm because my family lived in a very severely haunted house here in Kansas City when I was around 4 or 5 years old. And, the things that we encountered were nothing short of what you would see in the movie Poltergeist. It was very similar experiences. And being of a African American descent, having this particular demographic, and it wasn't something that we could actually come out and just talk about. It wasn't, we couldn't go to friends and family and people in the community and actually say we're having these experiences because of all the stigmas that surrounded the demographic that I come from. So we went through so many different things, and we have a big family. My mom and dad had 9 kids. So eight kids, and 7 kids at the time. My sister was just born, and my mother and father, we all stayed in the same house, and we all had very similar experiences. So it wasn't that I was a lone wolf in these experiences. My entire family had something that they were able to share, and their testimonies of what they went through.
How did that come up around the dinner table? Like, how did it come up that this was a normal thing? Like, hey, I'm not going to baseball practice tonight. I am going to investigate why this chair is moving at 2 a.m.
Oh my gosh. Are you saying as far as the current time, like now in my family?
Yeah. Like how does this come up as like a shared thing in your family? Like, how do you talk about it? How did you talk about it?
Yeah. So for a long time, my children and my immediate family did not know about it. The only ones that knew about everything that happened was my siblings and my parents. No one else knew about it. So I didn't start talking about it until 2016, when I started digging into my own past to try to unearth the truth. I went on more of a truth hunt because we couldn't talk about everything. My dad wouldn't let us discuss anything with anybody outside of the home. So when he passed away in 2016, that kind of like opened up it just opened up a paradigm of inquisitive, like me being inquisitive about everything we went through. And I started researching the property we lived in, because I'm like, there's no way that nobody else has experienced this. There's no way. So I went on a truth hunt. So during this hunt, I found out some very interesting things, not only just about the house, but about other people who lived in that very same house, because it's still the same house to this day. It's still standing. And the things that I found just were so compelling and just intriguing and surprising that I started doing investigations on houses that were adjacent to that property in the same street. And the experiences and things people were going through was just, it was crazy to know. So I confirmed and validated everything that we experienced And then that's when my family came together. And then once a lot of people in that neighborhood started hearing that I was doing investigations into their properties, it just became a trickle effect. Everybody started telling everybody, my cousin's got something going on in their house, and this one's got. So then I started just learning how to do investigations and investigating other people's encounters and paranormal sightings. And I literally just started doing it as more of a hobby because I wanted to know my own story and get to the bottom of my own story. But then that's when my name started becoming very, very popular and people started picking up on me. And it was just, it turned into that. Now, this investigative research is becoming you. It's coming to you, and you're going to have to figure out how to evolve in it. So yeah, that's kind of how it all erupted.
You're telling other people's stories and they are not even here to be part of them, basically. Do you feel like that's a gift, or do you feel like it's more of a burden that you sometimes have to shoulder?
I used to feel like it was a burden. I felt like it was a very strong emotional burden. But then I had to realize that what I was feeling and internalizing when I was a child, there's other people that are internalizing and feeling the same thing. So I said, you know what, I'm going to be the poster child for this whole investigative research. And I want to be a different kind of face that's out there that's saying, hey, I've been exposed to these things, and I'm going to be a compass for you and your truth. And it was a lot emotionally on me. But as a lot of people started coming and confiding in me and just being so grateful and thankful for what I was able to unearth, the truth, it became more of a mission.
Yeah. Did your friends ever look at you and tell you that you were maybe crazy, or
Funny thing is
that maybe they needed to talk to you about something else a little deeper here? And
it's funny because I have a best friend that I went to elementary school with since first grade. She never knew about any of the occurrences that we had or any of the experiences. She didn't know until I started doing my research. So I have a very close-knit amount of friends. I don't really have a lot of people that I consider friends. But when I finally decided to tell her, she was like, I knew something was different. I knew something was interesting about you, but I never said anything because we weren't allowed to tell our story. We couldn't say anything. But it took her a little time to get used to my research, my investigations, me having conversations about, hey, I just wrote a book about my paranormal past. Are you going to read it? It took her a while to warm up to that because she's scared. She doesn't watch scary movies. She doesn't like to hear anything, anything that's scary or creepy. She's just so anti all that. But over the past year, she started to warm up. So now we can actually have healthy conversations about my truth. But it was definitely a journey, though. It was a journey.
Did you watch scary movies as a kid, and were you able to identify with some of the things that were happening in those?
Yes, and it was so creepy because of what we were going through. And a lot of the scary movies we didn't watch until after we left that house because I was only 4 or 5, so we weren't able to watch a lot of things like that. But as I got older and I started actually watching a lot of these scary movies like Poltergeist, which I didn't see until, later on in my life, I'm like making these connections like, God, this, I went through that. But how do I tell a person that I went through something like that? How do you open a conversation? But yeah, I watched a lot of scary movies and I could connect to a lot of those events in the movies because of what I went through. So yeah, we watched a lot of TV after that.
I always think it's amazing when you have these experiences or of these experiences, and then you're consuming all these different mediums, and in those mediums are all of these similar traits, or like there's like a common thread, and then you're like, well, I can't be too far off if other people are writing about this, making movies about this, watching movies about this. It kind of validates you in a way, but it's also like, what are we all into here? And do we want to get out of this or not? It's like a weird thing that once you like tap into it, you realize there's other people who are in it with you in a weird way.
Yeah, you're definitely not alone. And that the most comforting and intriguing thing that I found with my research is that there's so many people that are into this, that are into researching the unknown, or what they call phenomena, that are into wanting to know more about it because of the connections they've had with something that they've encountered, you know. And it's a relief. It's such a relief for me. Over the years, it's been such a relief. And I'm like, okay, there are people that look like me that
Mhm.
have gone through these experiences. So I find comfort in that. They're finding comfort and confidence in me. And the platforms that I've developed are like a, a scapegoat to them being able to tell their stories and not feel like they have to be criticized or judged or looked at as if they have some type of psychological defect or anything like that. So it's just safe space. It's their safe space to tell their truth.
Yeah, that's interesting. I always think it's just a reassuring thing when you find, it's like you find your people
Yeah.
and you're fine with it. You're like, oh, okay, you're my people. And
Yeah.
we're going to talk about this really weird stuff that only like we know about. So,
Right.
can you walk me through like your investigations? How do you find them or how do they find you? What do you do? Kind of tell me how you go through the whole process for your investigations.
Yeah. So people find me. And a lot of it is word of mouth from other investigations that I've done, and it spreads so quickly, and then through social media platforms. So somebody will reach out to me on Ghosting TV or just send me a direct message, and they're saying, "Hey, I've got some stuff going on. I really want you to look into it." So I'll respond back to them, or someone in my team will respond back to them, and I have what I call a preliminary investigation that I have to do, and during that investigation, I kind of have to weed out the people that potentially might just want me to come sit in their house because they want company, or they really don't have anything going on and it's more of a mental disconnection that they're having, or emotional disconnection. So I kind of have to weed that out. The way that I weed that out is I need to have some type of evidence or something documented to support your claim, whether it's audio, video, testimonies from other people in the house. Because I know sometimes it's hard to actually get something on camera or get some type of audio. It can be difficult because I went through it. So if I have enough supporting documentation and evidence from that person, then I open up an actual full-blown investigation. And the investigation is going to depend on what you're experiencing. I could do a few-hour investigation. I can do an overnight investigation. It just kind of depends on what you tell me you're experiencing and what we believe is going on that would open up that specific investigation. So once I confirm that, we're going to take on this investigation, I'll have my team come. I have a team of 2 to 3 people. Sometimes, depending on how bad it is, or maybe the extent of it, I might just be the only person that goes. And then after we start and confirm the day that we're going to do the investigation, then I usually tell the property owners or the homeowners or the occupants, hey, get out. Don't tell me all the I don't want to know all the details, because I want to be able to investigate. And I call myself the pendulum. I believe I'm like the best piece of equipment because I can feel the energies and see the energies. So I said, don't give me too much information. I want to be able to be a compass in that and actually feel and collect evidence and document based on what we actually find. So once I conclude the investigation, in my investigation, I don't charge for them. I don't charge people a fee. If they're within a certain mile radius. Now, I've had to travel out of town. I've had to go to Texas. I've had to go to New York. I've had to go to Florida. So if I have to commute out of town, then I'm going to charge, travel expenses, maybe a lodging fee or something like that. But for the most part, I don't want to charge people to, for them to for them to find out, hey, what I am experiencing is real. I don't want to charge you for your, we want to say like, your consciousness. I don't want to charge you for that. So most of the people here in Missouri, I've done, I think I'm getting into closer to the 300 investigation.
Gosh.
Yeah, I've done commercial properties. I've done land. I've done residential properties owned and rented. I even did a well one time. I've done barbershops. I've done daycares. I've done a lot. There's no limit to what I'll do. I've done woods. I went to a location where there's some activity going on in some wooded area here in Kansas City. So yeah, once they reach out to me and I conclude that they are having some things going on, I open up the investigation. And then after about a week or two, I kind of like compile everything and I'll go back to the person and kind of, let them see the documented footage and what we conclude is going on and kind of give them some suggestions. I don't really tap into the whole faith thing, religious perspective and denomination. I tell them, whatever your beliefs are, heighten them, believe in it 10 times better, 10 times more, because
Right.
you're going to need it. When I do my investigation, depending on what you're experiencing, I put them on a scale. I have, levels. So there's like level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4. And those are the type of energies that you might be experiencing. The level 1s are more like I call the grandma ghost. And
Mhm.
then the level 4s are more like the claimed demonic type of energy or shapeshifters. So I'll let them know you're dealing with this level. And these are the things that you might want to consider based on these levels of energy in your property or in your home or near you. So yeah, I do that. And I just kind of give people a little bit of a breath of fresh air of what they're experiencing. So they don't feel like, I'm going through this alone or nobody believes me. So, and give them that reassurance, like you say, give them that reassurance that, they're not crazy. They just want to know that they're not nuts,
The door is closed for them.
Yes, that's it. You're that.
Have you ever finished an investigation and been like, what was that? Like, what did I just go through?
Ooh,
And how do you decompress from that? Or how do you like reflect on that and move on from that then?
yeah. I had to train myself to detach myself emotionally when I leave these investigations because I internalize a lot because of what I've been through, and it can be a lot for people. So, one investigation that I had was in South Carolina. It was actually, I'm sorry, North Carolina, and there was a house that was owned by a Confederate soldier named William McCorkle. And this property, during the daytime, my job that pays the bills, I'm a claim adjuster, and I used to go out in the field and inspect properties for claim damage and storm damage. So it was one of those incidents where I had to actually go out and do an inspection, but it turned into a full-blown paranormal investigation because of the things that I saw when I first came to the house. So I'm staring and I'm looking in this window, and this is one of these historic, beautiful large homes with the giant pillars, very historic wraparound porch, very, very beautiful. So I'm looking up on the second level as I'm walking up to the property, and I'm seeing the shadow in the window, and I'm looking up, the homeowner's looking at me, and she's like, what are you looking at? And I said, I tried to play it off,
Right.
I try to be
Right.
dismissive of it. And then she was like, did you see somebody in the window? I said, yeah, probably one of your family members. And she's like, no. She's just shaking her head. And I'm just like, oh God, I'm walking into a nest. I call them nests, like when it's really infested. So when I got into the house and I started talking to her a little bit more, and then she was like, yeah, tell me more about what you saw. And then I explained to her, I saw the lady in the tattered clothing, looked like she was of African-American descent. And I explained that to her, and she said, oh yeah, we see her a lot too. So we started having a conversation, and then eventually the inspection turned into an actual investigation. So when every investigation, I have specific stones that I take with me. And these stones, one is a protection stone, and then one is a stone that kind of like opens me up to where I'm able to feel and connect with whatever's there. So I take these particular stones and I say this meditative prayer before I go in. And that's kind of like my protective barrier that I wear and going into the investigation. So I did that. I go into this foyer. I'm standing there with the lady and her husband, and she's like, well, where do you want to start? I said, well, you know what, just kind of let me navigate myself around the house. Don't tell me too much more. I want to be able to present something to you so that way we can kind of corroborate the findings. So as we're standing in this foyer, it's like an inferno of blue fire. At that time, it's like a little like the sun is going down. So there's this window, this bay window they have, and the light is shining right in through this bay window. So right in between us, there's this little inferno of blue fire that shoots up and goes straight through the freaking ceiling. So I back and I'm looking because I've never gone through this. I have seen it in the movie.
Heat? Can you feel the
I didn't feel, yeah, it wasn't cold, it wasn't hot, it was just this fire that went straight through the ceiling. So I backed up. The homeowners are like, oh, that happens all the time. And I said, really? All the time? You have this inferno that just,
yeah.
so I said, okay, there's a lot more going on than just, just ghosts. This is beyond
Right.
level. This is beyond a level 4. So the more I started doing my investigation, going to the different areas of this house, there was so many. There was a little boy that ran like right in front of me. There was tall soldiers walking around. It was like, what do you say? Almost like what do you call those things? It was like a hoarding house for ghosts or something, and they were everywhere. So I'm just documenting and cataloging what I'm seeing and their images, so I can talk to these homeowners about everything that they've been going through, because they're on the verge of moving out of this house. They had only been there for about 6 months. They had bought the house. So I sit down and I kind of went over all the evidence of everything, and then they started corroborating everything and all the energies that I was seeing. They started telling me about the stories, and the lady that I saw on the stairs that was crying with a baby, she told me about the story of her being raped by one of the soldiers. And I walked out of there and I literally had to go mentally detox myself. I ended up canceling my inspections that I had for the next day. And I just kind of went back to my hotel room because I'm in Missouri. So I had drove all the way out to South Carolina, North Carolina for inspections. So I literally canceled all of my inspections the next day because I had to detox all of that out of me. It was a lot. But yeah, that's the most interesting one where I came out and like, oh my God. That was a lot.
Yeah. Do you think homeowners would have to disclose the extra residence as part of the selling?
Part of the sale? And it's funny you say that, because some states are required to disclose the history of a property if they decide to sell.
Right.
And I believe North Carolina and South Carolina are amongst the states that are required to disclose any type of what they call psychologically impacted property. Or stigmatized property. So yeah, it's crazy. It's really crazy, but yeah.
That would be, can you imagine if you had like guests before, like the family knows this is going on, but then they have guests come over like, oh, that's just our ghost. That's just our inferno in the front.
That's our inferno that we have. Don't worry about it. It's not. I'm just like, how do you have these conversations with people? Because you guys have an immense amount of activity going on.
Right. It reminds me of this book. I was just looking up the author of it. We read this book in my book club called The Reformatory by Tana Dew.
Oh, yeah. I know her.
Oh, you know her?
Yes, I know her.
Okay. So it was a book for my book club that I do. And it was like, I'm sort of reading and I'm like, oh, okay. And then as I'm reading and I'm like, oh man, I'm like, this kid is like feeling the fields. Like he is feeling the heat in these fields, and like all of the history of the place, and like there was like a fire in this boy's home and all of this, but he could feel it and he was living it and he was seeing things, and they were all so accepting of it. It just made me think, like, before this was a common thing to talk about, how people would handle. I mean, you think back to like the Civil War, there's so much deep history in the South with ghosts that still haunt those properties, and like obviously you experienced. And you think about like those places, and how do people before these conversations took place, how did they handle that? Was it just like, oh, those are just the spirits, those are the ghosts, that's the devil? Like, what do you like before it became such a common thing or a normal thing to talk about? Like how you can't process that.
Yeah. Like what was your outlet, and what were those conversations like?
Yeah, right.
And that's so interesting, because some of the things that I've investigated in my research, in the amount of evidence and phenomena that I've documented here in the Midwest. In the South, some of this is normal. This is normal conversations.
Right.
These are not foreign conversations to them, talking about ghosts and entities and energies. It's a common talk. So then you have other areas like here in Midwest, we don't really talk about it that much. It's taboo,
Right.
So that's like one of the biggest things with what I do, is I'm trying to remove the stigmas and have this as a common conversation. So people can start opening up about their experiences and not feeling like they have to shelter everything.
Mm-hmm. Have you found that you've had to like really go through things? I know you mentioned that's not like a common thing for like people in your family to talk about. Whereas like, I'm also from the Midwest. I didn't grow up talking about ghosts, but now I talk about it like it's a normal thing with my friends, like, have you found that like it's very different on like the different sides of culture?
Yeah, it is. Especially culturally speaking, from where my demographic, it was so difficult. It was so challenging to have that, to incorporate that as a normal conversation,
Mhm,
because you were automatically labeled. You were
mhm,
automatically isolated, you know. Um, with me going through the immense amount of investigations that I've done, you would think people would be like, "Oh, okay, you know, we consider her not to be crazy because she
mhm,
has provided so much evidence to support her research." But it was such a struggle because um so many people in my community, especially unfortunately in the Christian community, Baptist,
mhm.
all of those. That's why I try to keep religion out of it. I don't associate with religion because everybody perceives it in their own religious viewpoint.
Right.
But it was so difficult from people from my culture to accept me and to actually have these conversations fluidly and candidly without labeling me. I
Mhm,
got called a witch. I got called a demonic worshiper. I got called a person who had psychological issues because I research and study the
mhm.
different practices and spiritual practices from different religious groups, so I can understand what people might be dealing with and how they see certain things. I got labeled and criticized and ridiculed and judged more from Black people than I did people outside of that. But
Mhm.
again, with my culture, my demographic, we didn't talk about it. It wasn't normal conversations. It wasn't, it was normal conversations with other race groups, but
Mhm.
with Black groups, it was, if you believe in things like that, something's wrong with you, something's wrong with your family, something psychological. There's some type of psychological psychiatric disconnection with you. So it took me, a couple of years to really start making some people from my community, my culture, more comfortable, because I had to go through this. I got to prove myself. I got to prove I'm not crazy. I got to prove that everything that I've been doing and the research I've compiled is legitimate and it is valid, and there's other people that can corroborate it. So for the first couple of years, it was really, really hard for me emotionally as well, because I had to prove myself to um, other races, other demographics, because they
Right.
were like, okay, this is not normal for a young Black woman to be, vested in this and be in this type of research background. How legitimate is she? How solid is the information that she's able to provide? I had to prove myself twice as much to everybody, but more for people from my demographic, because it was just not a common conversation. Now, from 2016 to now, I mean, we're almost 10 years in. It's so much more fluid, so
Mhm.
much fluid. I get people that message me every day that didn't actually have these conversations and had that little bit of a macho perspective on their views in life, and that were opposing everything I did. I got them hitting me up now, like, hey, did you see all of the drones? What are your thoughts? And it's like, you know, 5 years ago, you would have been like, "Oh, this girl's crazy. Let me block and unfriend her." Now now you're reaching out to me for help.
Right. Yeah, we joke about the way that all of this has just become what you talk about. And I think too, when you find your people, it's so much more fun to be like, "Hey, guess what I heard
Yeah,
today?" And then it's like, "What do you think about this?" And it's a quick 5-minute conversation sometimes where you're just kind of keeping that thought going, and then someone comes back. Like I saw a great meme yesterday. It was from one of the movie production companies from like the 20s, and it was like, how did Paramount know what the world looked like before NASA? And I
yeah.
was like, whoa. I was like, never
Okay.
thought about that. Send it to one friend and she's like, whoa. She's like, this is a good combo to have tomorrow morning. I was like, yeah, let's
Yeah,
let's dive into this more. But it's become such like it's a fun thing because I think it opens doors to other things that you don't know that you're interested in, or that it also uncovers a lot of the history of things, of people that you would otherwise never know.
yeah.
I'm a big believer that if you don't talk about the history, it disappears.
True.
And so like keeping like the talk about ghosts and what's associated at the different places, different spirits at places, it keeps them alive, and it keeps like
Yeah.
what happened there alive. Because otherwise we're all just living in this current world.
Right. And it memorializes the history of things and what happened before we were ever conceived, before we ever came to be. It memorializes that. So I do a lot of documenting. I'm very thorough with my research before I do any investigation. I'm probably researching everything that happened before that building ever even existed.
Right.
It matters. All of those details matter, and all of those details can contribute to potentially what you're experiencing right now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, to not just be so dismissive. Oh, this happened, and it's over now. We're on to the new phase of life, and just forget about it. We can't, because it's a conduit to why we're doing certain things the way we are right now.
Yeah, agreed. How has all of your investigations and just your personal journey changed the way you think about life and death and the life experience? And how has this, have you had like a kind of those like waves of emotion towards life and death and all of that? And I'm sure it's not like a singular, like you live, you die, and then poof.
Yeah, I definitely believe that energy, what I consider our souls, is energy. And I believe that energy is recycled. Recycled in some form, one way or the other. I don't believe that our energy just dies, and it either goes one location or another. And the reason why is because we have so many people that have sightings of phenomena and apparitions and ghosts. Where are they at? Why come they haven't transitioned over to this other realm that everybody talks about is the finality of our lives? Why have they not dispersed? So, and with me having seen and experienced the things that I've experienced, there's just no way that there's just a definitive location for our souls or our energies to go. So I believe it's recycled into a different form, and it's a continuum of energy, which brings me to reincarnation, which is actually one of the films that I wrote. It's a film about reincarnation. But and what happens to that energy as it's recycled into a different form? Does it go into an animal? Does it go into a plant? Does it recycle itself back into another human? Because there's a lot of people that believe they've been here before. They've just done it in a different form, or they've existed in a different form, maybe as a bird. They remember themselves flying. So with everything that I research, I definitely believe that there's just no, you're going to go to heaven or you're going to go to hell.
Right. Yeah.
There's definitely
A or B. And then I always my initial thought was that ghosts were just like tortured souls that couldn't cross into the other world. But I was like, well, they're not all creepy though. Some of them are just like content, and they just they want to make it known that they're still here, and they just need a little acknowledgement. And not all of them are bad. Just it's interesting because it's not a straight line once you really dive into it. And it's not that it challenges your personal religious beliefs, is I think it expands it, and it makes you think about other areas that you just have never considered. You've never maybe even been introduced to think about.
Yeah. And that's why I have the Paranormal Impact podcast platform, where I interview people and the things that they share that they've been through and seen, and to unload all of the stuff that they believe is going on, what they've experienced. It's fascinating because it helps me get an idea of the other things that could be connections to the ghosts, connections to extraterrestrials, connections to UAPs, UFOs, phenomena. There's so many common links that I'm starting to notice the more I hear people's testimonies and what they're saying. Oh, okay, this light came down from the sky and it went into the water, and this ship was hovering, but it sounded like it was trying to extract my energy, and it was in my dreams. And the more I hear people testify of what they've been through, I'm connecting the dots of the similarities of all of these occurrences and phenomena.
So interesting. Can you tell us more about your books, that the one that you have? There's two. It's the 10 feet under and then 10 feet above. Is that one published too?
10 feet above is in the works.
Okay.
A couple of things, but 10 feet under is published in 2022. And that is about my personal experiences that my family had that kind of ignited everything. So it tells the truth from my perspective and the perspective of some of my siblings, and the demonic encounters that we had living in a house here in Kansas City, Missouri. So that one is out. I've gotten a lot of feedback on that. You can get that on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. And I also still have physical copies here that I hand out because I like physical looks.
Yeah.
I just like the physical look. So that is about the childhood, the conception of the investigative research mindset. This second one is the continuum. So it's me as a young lady, kind of getting into my teenage years and the struggles that I've had to deal with emotionally, with having to tap in and out of what I call this realm of existence, because I believe I'm kind of existing in two different parts of life, a different kind of realm. So I tap in because I tap in with spiritually, having to see things and feel things, and then on top of that, I'm just a regular human. So, but the things that I've experienced and what grounded me in my investigations and all of the investigations and research and things that I've compiled over the years, above what I've researched and found from the first book, because I kind of left a little bit of a cliffhanger in the first book.
Have you ever like found yourself thinking like, what a cool life, and then like, oh, I have to go switch the laundry? Where you're like in this weird, like almost like an alternate universe, but then regular life is also existing of your own personal needs and family needs and all of that. And like your normal daytime life. Like, have you ever found yourself and you're like, how did I get here?
Yes, every day I have to reactivate and reprogram my mind, because I'm in two different types of realities, right? So I'm a mom. I have 4 children. They're all grown. My son's birthday was actually yesterday. He just turned 17. And I have daughters that are in their 20s. So, and they didn't know about none of the stuff that I went through until I started talking about it in 2016. And it took them a little time to kind of, get comfortable with me. So I got this, I'm still a mom, children
Right.
still need me. I got dinner today. Oh my God, I just got done doing an interview. Now I got to go upstairs and actually be a domesticated person.
And this energy force field is so strong. I mean,
Like, I just literally had somebody. I had somebody unload how they actually he had experiences of being in a different portal in California, and him going into this what do they call it, intergalactic portal that was in this cave. And so I'm unloading, he's unloading all of this, and I'm just remembering all of these interviews I've done where people have unloaded that on me with similar experiences. Right. So then, like, done with my interview, gotta walk upstairs. Okay, what do you guys want for dinner?
It's two totally different.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you get sucked into one world and then you're like, oh wait, I gotta go over here now and like do something totally different. Flipping back and forth, and it's that thought process that's so hard.
It took a lot to kind of reprogram myself. I have to do it every day because I just see myself submerging into the talk and conversation of paranormal. Oh my God, I did this. Oh my gosh. And then when I'm dealing with homeowners and I'm looking at their photos and I things in their pictures, because they document all of their findings for their damages, and I'm looking like, I want if they know that there might be something going on. I have to kind of I have to reprogram myself. I can't do that. I have to keep that separate.
Yeah. Where's the place that you would love to go do an investigation on, or just maybe explore, maybe not like a full investigation, but where is some place that you would like to, like your dream place? Where would that be?
It is, it's a temple in Sri Lanka. It's called the Temple of Dambulla, if I'm saying it right. And this is a Buddhist meditation temple, but it's known to have a lot of energy activity that they kind of like protect in the temple. And only certain people are allowed to enter the temple. You have to get a clearance. It's on an island. So that's one of my places. And I actually got a clearance to go to the island, to go to the temple, but I couldn't go because my mom was away. So I had to deal with that. But that's one of the places, because I heard the energy there is just very active and it's normal and it's common. There's like a very long, I think it's like a day worth of walking upstairs to get to the temple. So, but when you get there, you can feel the vibrations, and there's certain things that you have to do. You can't cross your arms. You can't turn your back on the Buddhist. There's a lot of stuff you have to do. So, but that's one of the places that's on my list, is that.
Would there be any place you don't want to go or you would never want to step foot in?
I can't say there's a place that I don't want to go.
What about a place that doesn't exist in the world? Like, would you not want to enter some weird portal in the middle of the ocean? I mean, technically that's in the world still, but, or like space
Yeah.
portal or like,
Well, would I not go? I can't say I wouldn't want to go. Me and my sister were talking about if we got abducted by aliens and
Mhm.
they took us somewhere for like a day or two, would we go? As long as we know they're bringing us back. And I said, of course, as long as I come back in the form that I was taken from, yeah. But I don't think I would have any reservations with going somewhere. There was a movie, I think King Kong. I think it's a new movie that's out, and they're in the center, in the core of the earth, and there's a completely different universe there. And they go through this portal in the forest, and it takes them into this other universe, and they have to travel through this makeshift drone that holds people. But I would totally do that. I don't think I would just restrict myself from going there just
yeah,
because
as
it's
long as you know there's an exit ticket back home.
yeah, long as there is an exit strategy, I can get out. Adventurous person. So
And then can you tell me more about the mystery dinner that you host, the murder mystery
oh
dinner?
gosh. Yes.
It looked like a really fun time because it looks like a little bit of a step back into time.
Yes, yes, and I love the whole vintage retro type feel, because I feel like I've been reincarnated and have recycled energy. So I did the very first show I did was in September of 2023, which is the picture that I sent to you. So I got a couple people together who were actors and stuff in Kansas City, and I just came up with this idea because I've been in murder mystery dinners, but I was the only Black person in the murder mystery dinner. So here in Kansas City, they don't really have any of that stuff. It's kind of like taboo for Black people to be in it. So I was like, well, what if I did my own? And then I just started getting ideas together. I wrote the script. I produced the show. I did partial choreography. I'm not a great dancer. I had a choreographer. I hired 8 actors. One of the actors was one of my sisters. And we put on the show. So it was about like altogether it's like a 4-hour show. You have dinner, then you do 2 different segments, and everybody wore prohibition style Gatsby type clothes, and they kind of had to find out who killed who. But the difference with my show than traditional murder mystery shows is it had more of a theatrical performance. So I had people that were getting tossed in the air, and there was a whole synchronized dance to Michael Jackson music,
Mhm.
and it was pretty awesome. I had about 400 or 500 people that attended my first show, and it was such a success. It was so great to see everything get put together, and to know that I was the mastermind behind it was phenomenal. I got a lot of good feedback on that show, and it was so fun. It was fun. It was like everyone can take a trip back in time. And it also brought a large community of people together who had never even heard of what a murder mystery dinner was. They didn't know what it was. And if they did, they'd never been to one.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like opening up new things and creativity for a specific demographic of people that is not always privy to that.
Mhm.
And just bringing everybody together was so fun. I was going to have one in December of this year, but I had to cancel it because one of my actors had gone out of town and trying to find somebody else. So we're pushing this one to spring. I at least want to have it every year. If not, I'm trying to work on getting it every 2 years. But with the other projects I got, it's a lot for me to handle. I am in the show, which was really, really fun because it's the first time I actually fully had to act and produce and all that for a show. It was really, really fun. So, but yeah, we're gonna have a spring show probably for February. Well, no, actually, no, it will definitely be spring. It's not gonna be February. We'll definitely have a spring show, but it'll be the same tone, same feel. But it was so fun seeing everyone so dressed up, and yeah.
Taking on a different time. Do you feel like that kind of a creative outlet helps you balance things between your supernatural and natural world, I guess it would be, where you have those abilities just to kind of take all of those thoughts and maybe the imagery with pulling from the 20s and the history that you know? Do you feel like that's a really great creative outlet that continues to inspire you to do more?
Yes, it is. It is a therapeutic outlet for me because one, it lets me connect to where I feel like I derive from. It taps me back into the past, and it keeps me connected to historical things of life. So it doesn't just dissolve. I'm resuscitating the things that made us who we are. So it definitely helps me. And then I get to be a completely different person for a day. I get to tap out of all of this other stuff and activate this different character and just embody myself in this mindset. So it's very, very, very therapeutic for me. The creativity of it is so therapeutic, the historical part of it,
Mhm.
the outcome, and just seeing other people uh, be a part of it and them enjoy being encompassed in such a unique dynamic. Like they can be different people for the day. They can walk around and have a Gatsby look or talking. I don't know what they spoke like back in the day, but they can speak in those different types of expressions and dialect. And it's fun, and it helps me kind of like recalibrate myself
Mhm.
spiritually and emotionally.
That's a good way to put it, the recalibration.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. I like that. Do you think that all paranormal activity is linked to spirits, or do you think there's other explanations? I know you talked a little bit about the energy fields and the dimension overlaps and portals and all that.
Yeah.
Do you think this is all connected by one thing, or do you think this is a situation where it's like all of these things are colliding at just the right time?
Yeah, I definitely think that there's a collision of all of these different things. How they're connected, I'm not sure. I don't believe it's just associated with one particular thing, one particular spiritual concept. It's definitely some type of connection. Now, with it being multiple different conduits of connection, energy connections, or maybe a singular force that is controlling all of these external connections, that's still some compounds of research that I'm compiling with
Mhm.
techniques and with investigative research. But yeah, I definitely think there's multiple things that are contributing to that. I'm even starting to see that us as humans, we have all of these additional um, sensories that
Mhm.
we're trained to not use. And
Mhm.
some of these sensories are like having the ability to speak to someone telepathically.
Mhm.
And we might hear, have you ever heard somebody's name, or somebody's name come across your mind, and then that person calls you?
Yeah.
you know and these are these abilities that we are not trained to actually use, because we're only trained to see and smell and hear in the basic senses. But there are so many different senses that we come with as humans that we don't even know we can possess. um and that part is something that I'm starting to realize more, with the connections of other energies, and why certain people are able to feel energies a lot stronger than other people, or why certain people have the ability to see certain things that other people can't see. And just connecting those dots and starting to realize that there's a similarity in a lot of these energies and spiritual connections and extraterrestrials. There's a lot of similarities in the existence of them. They all survive on energy. That is one common denominator between everything. Even spirits and ghosts, as they call them, can't survive without some kind of energy. And we are composed and comprised of energy. So if
Mhm.
they're feeding on our energy, whether it's our emotional energy, our spiritual energy, they're feeding and surviving on it. That's why sometimes we are able to communicate and connect with them in a different form. But yeah, there's so many similarities.
Let's jump ship to the UFO things.
Yes.
Do you ever feel like right now you are living in this weird world of Jason Bourne has somehow boarded the Starship Enterprise and they have met the resistance of the Ewoks? Like, I mean, that really, like when I read the news, sometimes I feel like
Yeah.
I asked AI to like tell me the news, and it like tell me the news related to these 3 movies or 4 movies, whatever.
Yeah.
Like talk to me about your like take on UFOs, and the video of yours was really fun to watch
Yeah.
because um it's it's become so mainstream, and
Yeah.
everyone's well, they're just UFOs. And 20 years ago, I think we would have been in a panic. But I think
Yeah.
the evolution of social media has really, really made a lot of things in good ways normal, but also
Yeah.
in bad ways normal. But let's talk about UFOs because that's fun.
Yeah. So they've started to have multiple names for UFOs and extraterrestrials. They call them UAPs now,
Mhm.
unidentified aerial phenomena. So they're trying to lessen the blow of the identity of them, but it all still means the same thing.
Mhm.
So I have had sightings of UFOs. I have had encounters with extraterrestrials growing up. My siblings have had encounters with extraterrestrials, UFOs, UAPs, and they are a very, very real existence.
Mhm.
And the funny thing is, they have been, sometimes I feel like we are the aliens. I feel like we are the ones that are intrusive into this world, and they're trying to understand our existence because of us kind of like taking over a little bit. I feel like we are the aliens.
Yeah.
And there's so many different worlds and galaxies that are existing, and they're trying to understand the dynamic of us. But there have been reports and sightings all over the United States, and it's starting to become normal. Because they're kind of like trickling in the media a little bit more than they were before. Like, okay, we got a sighting over here, and everybody's like, oh my God. And then there's like a little bit of a shell shock, and then there's more sightings, and there's some more trickles of release of information that's coming from the Pentagon. And there's an entire, I don't know if you know this or not, there was an entire 150-page docket that was released. Did you hear about that? That was in 20, and they basically, that disclosure of information was ignited. And I actually had an interview with a person who worked in the Pentagon years ago, and they were confessing a lot of the things that were happening prior to the release of that 150-page docket, prior to that whole situation. But they had confessed that the Greys and the extraterrestrials were disappointed with how we were dealing with the world, and we were being very neglectful of each other. We being very neglectful of our resources. We're being very neglectful of the earth. So they had these communications with certain individuals in the Pentagon and in that, extraterrestrial protective unit, or, that undisclosed unit.
Yeah.
And they told those individuals in the Pentagon that, we are going to be making ourselves more visible, and you guys better let the public know we're coming. So this was years prior to the disclosure. We had a whole interview about it. The person just, they masked their identity to protect themselves, but basically was warning us that this is what's going to happen. So these sightings that people are starting to see more frequently, we've been warned about. They're going to start becoming normal. Kind of like how Men in Black was. You have all these terrestrials and all these terrestrials that kind of like shape shifted and mask their identity as humans. All of that is real. And it's like people don't want to believe it because it makes them comfortable to have an understanding and a definitive answer as to what this is going on. Oh, those are men created extraterrestrial UFOs. It makes them comfortable. So they would rather live in a lie than understand and live in the truth. So, but the sightings are going to become more frequent. There's going to be multiple UAP, UFO sightings that are going to be, it's almost like a deer in your backyard.
Yeah.
There's a drone in my backyard, tell your wife, your kids, it's in my backyard. It's going to become normal. And I think the biggest thing for people is to prepare your mind mentally. Not really a lot that we're going to be able to do, because these forces are so much more stronger than any type of equipment or any type of weapons that we have. Their forces and their weaponry is 10 times more advanced. So the biggest thing that the terrestrials were trying to get to convey with those in the Pentagon and those of a higher authority was build a bridge to us, become our allies, so that way we can help you. But you guys are destroying yourselves for your own selfish reasons and own ignorance, and we're trying to help you.
Right.
So, but yeah, so there's a lot of signs. I had a couple of people that came on my show, and they were like, listen, what I saw and what them things, and a lot of them, they speak they speak with their minds, they don't speak with words. So sometimes if you're sitting there and you're hearing something speak to you and you're like, who is talking? Hello.
Yeah.
There is some kind of telepathic communication that is going on. So we should try to learn to use that additional sense, because it is going to be something that we're going to have to do. We're going to have that connection with them, and that's how they speak. And it's going to become more normal.
We're like an ant farm. That's how I envision them looking at us. Like we are the ants on the ant farm, and they're watching us work. And then they're like, what are you doing? What is going on here? Yeah. What's happening over here? That's kind of how I think. But I also wonder, do other countries not have these visits? Are they not having these sightings? Are we on some weird, like, are we living in a portal zone, like a like a runway? Why is it only being reported here, or what seems to be only here? Are we only talking about it? I always wonder, like, is this a distraction? Is it because we are listening to people? What is the why the US? Like, why us?
Yeah, there's actually reports all over the globe. It's not just here. I think our access and our information allows us to be privy to the information of here.
Mhm.
Don't have all of those radio satellite connections to where they're keeping track of all of this stuff, and we are able to have access to it. But there are portals that exist in other countries. There's portals that a lot of the portals that exist are in the water. They're close to all of the coastlines. But there's several sightings. There's sightings all over the world. I think I'm wondering, because a lot of other countries, they embrace the unknown. A lot of other countries are not they don't have that stigmatized veil over their head, over their eyes, to where they're not able to see that these things exist. Here in this world that we live in, we have been conditioned to believe that these things are abnormal, and these are not of normal understanding or normal connections. And they're becoming more frequent here to say, you know what, at least this is what I believe. You know what, you guys have been lied to. You have been, you had the wool pulled over your eyes. We are real. And other countries are aware of that. They're more accepting to that. I have a girlfriend who's from, is it Haiti? Gosh, where's she from? She just went there. I know one is from the Philippines, and then one is from Thailand. I have a girlfriend from Thailand, and their culture is very accepting of terrestrials and ghosts and entities and energies and dark forces. It's normal there. It's more normalized every other place besides here, because they want to have this type of control over everything. So they want the kinetics of your mind and your lifestyle to be formulated to one specific thing. They want you to have these five senses and nothing outside of that little box.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think we are just conditioned to believe that, here in the United States, or here in this territory that we live in, that these things are not happening, but it's more normal in other places. But there's definitely things that are being reported in other countries.
I really think so, because if we have Area 51 here, where are the other 50 areas?
Exactly.
It's a question I have. And are there more? And where do we stop the number at? Let's just finish up here with a couple of rapid fire questions. You can make it the answer as long or as short as you want. The first one, let's see. Do you believe in Bigfoot?
Yes, I do. I do.
Hide and seek world champion, as I like to say.
I'm going to use that.
Yes. What is your favorite ghost hunting tool, or like paranormal investigation tool?
Oh, the SLS camera is one of my favorite tools.
Okay. Would you rather be locked in a haunted house for a night, or take a midnight stroll in a graveyard?
Give me the midnight stroll in the graveyard.
Same. I'll join you. What's the creepiest thing a ghost has ever said to you, or thing that you've ever felt?
The creepiest thing a ghost has ever said, or an energy has ever said to me, was, "Get out, monsters in wall." That was the creepiest thing that and that was when I was a child. They used to say that every day.
There's movies based on that.
Yeah.
Like those kinds of things.
Yes.
Last one here. If you could have one supernatural power, what would it be?
I guess flying wouldn't be supernatural.
It's not natural, so it would be supernatural.
Okay. Being able to fly as a human.
Oh.
There's a question that I've asked people, and I'll make it quick because I know we're on the timeline. If you were impervious for one day, for a 24-hour period, and you had the ability to withstand any element, cold, fire, water, you can breathe underwater, and you could fly anywhere around the globe. You just can't leave the earth. You can fly anywhere around the globe. Where would you go? What would you do? And you could take up to 140 pounds to and from for one day.
140 pounds.
Yeah. You can take another human. They would be impervious. You could take equipment, like if you wanted to take cameras and stuff, it would be impervious as well.
My first answer would be someplace incredibly cold because I hate cold weather and never want to experience it. That would be my first, like, kind of off the cuff kind of answer. But I really think it would be the oceans because they're so dark and scary and cold and creepy. And I think there's a lot more that's down there that I would love to know about.
Yes. Yeah. That's exactly what I said. I said I would take some equipment and I would take like a bag, and that way I could take pictures and document everything that I see under there, and then take maybe like some rare stones or part of the reef in the ocean back with me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going straight in that water.
Same. I'm going to find out what's underneath there. Well, Marie, this was so much fun. Thank you for joining us today. We're excited to keep watching what you're doing next and the different things that you're taking on in the paranormal world. So thank you so much for your time and for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for listening today to this episode of Hometown Hauntings, and make sure you check out all of our social media pages under Ghost City Tours.
Hometown Hauntings is brought to you by Ghost City Tours, the largest ghost tour company in the nation. With tours in over 20 cities, including New Orleans, Savannah, Charleston, and beyond, we bring haunted history to life with spine-tingling tales and expert storytelling. Ready to experience the paranormal up close? Book now at ghostcitytours.com to explore a haunted city near you.